Hello and welcome to this week's photography podcast. It's episode 49, I think. Thank you. This week it's all change, really. Dave's still here, I'm still here, Jamie's still here, but James and Darren are not. Darren's actually currently in the lakes. We haven't fallen out, honestly. Everything's good. I'm really sorry we forgot to mention that he wasn't here last week. That was terrible.
I thought it was a bit rich, though, you slagging him off for giving bad advice on his video channel.
That was not Darren. That was someone else entirely. That was you, Dave. Anyway, so this week, because we're down to 3 regulars, we've decided to invite an honorary regular back, and that's Lynn. So welcome, Lynn. And also, our main guests this week, and that's right, guests, not guest, are the fantastic Rich and Jem. Now, hello. Now,
hello.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourselves and your channel?
Go. We've been together as an item for about
got to do with the
2 or 3 years because we only started the channel when we got together.
Right. Okay.
We didn't. What I'm saying is we didn't have our own channels before we got together.
Right. We haven't planned this, have we?
No. I've been taking images semi-seriously for about 9 years. Started landscape mostly, completely, and then I met Jem, and then I started to do more wildlife, and you
we
were
do
sort of the
wildlife
other
and
way,
landscape photography on a YouTube channel.
Yes.
That was it. That
Yes.
was the sentence.
Oh, he wanted to know a little bit about us as well.
All right. Okay.
He listened to the question.
Okay. Brilliant.
I'm really looking forward to tonight. I really am.
We should just leave them to it. We're down the pub.
Literally, before we started, I said, right, what we'll do is we'll just say, over to you, and we'll just sit and watch. Because I think that would just be
I've got
absolutely
Dutch
fantastic.
courage, just what it is.
Nice.
I've got to say as well, welcome back, Lynn. It's great to have you back.
Thank you for having me back, Gary. Appreciate it.
We didn't talk enough about your photography last time. I think hands up.
It's
to
an
that.
overrated pastime talking about photography.
I mean, if you wanna give us a little introduction to yourself and your photography, you're more than welcome as well.
Well, unlike a lot of channels, I guess I just take people along for the trips out that I do. I've no intention of going any further, showing what I do, where I go. It's all 99% landscape, a little bit of motocross every now and then. But it's basically my travels around the country, which is great. And things like the project I've got going, which is a minimal, long exposure mono. See how that progresses. But yeah, it's taken off far better than I ever imagined. Why people like to listen to me waffling, I'll never know.
How long have you been doing it for, Lynn? How long's your channel been active?
I've been waffling for about 4 years now.
Been a while, hasn't it? Yeah.
It has. yeah. Yes, far longer than I expected.
Just think yourselves. Go on, sorry.
I keep looking back at my first one going, oh my God, how bad was that?
I would say just think yourselves lucky you do it on your own, because, looking at Rich and Jem as a model for doing it as a couple is probably best that you do it on your own, really. Isn't it?
Yeah.
What I always think of with yours, Lynn, is you're the master of pointing over your shoulder at something.
Am I? Oh, I never realised that.
I don't know. It's just every time I watch your stuff, it's like, oh yeah, well the sunset over here, and you're always spot on. I can never
that's
pull
all right.
that off.
I still haven't, even after 4 years, I haven't mastered the art of being able to point at the thing I'm shooting and getting my finger in the right place. It's beyond me. I can't do it. You do it perfectly. There's the mountain, and it's perfectly in line with your finger. I'm pointing down here, and the seascape's over here somewhere.
That's why Skillshare went after Dave. It's only his pointing skills. That's all it is. Literally nothing else.
Yeah, but you can't miss. There's mountains everywhere, so he's only got to do that.
This is a very good point. This is a very good point.
And you lot wouldn't know if I'm pointing at the wrong one. I could just be making up gobbledygook.
Yeah, this is true. This is true. So, how's everyone's week been? What have we been up to? Now, I hear a rumour that some pair of guests are going up north at the weekend.
Oh, we are, yeah.
We are tomorrow, in fact, early.
Our first trip out, really.
We're going to Malham in Yorkshire for 1 night, 2 days.
Yep.
For wildlife?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Wildlife or landscape?
Landscape. This is a pure landscape.
Harry Potter scenes, isn't there?
The tree that you've seen, Gary,
Yes. A tree that I can't see.
Yeah, the tree, waterfalls, rocks, crags, yeah. So that would be good.
It is lovely around there, I've got to say. I
nice.
tried. I mean, we talked about this, didn't we, on Monday? I think probably you've seen it. You've been to a tree, haven't you? Then Malham tree.
Yeah, a couple
you
of
have,
times.
Dave, haven't you? I think because you were up that way. I went to Malham to Janet's Foss, and I found Janet's Foss with minimal issue. I went to find a tree, and
Because you know why? It's not at Malham.
Yeah.
why do you call it Malham
Yes.
tree? Then what's wrong?
Well, that was my mistake. It's not Malham Tree at all. Where is it?
Because with tea, we've just discussed it, haven't we?
We have just discussed it. We've been looking at it on the map, and I can't
Tell
remember.
us, Scott.
That's
Whistleton.
Whistleton.
Twistleton.
Whistleton
To the bottom of
Scar.
Twistleton Scar.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
So I told
About
you totally wrong on
30
Monday, Gary.
minutes
It's not at
away,
Malham
isn't
at all. That's why you didn't see it.
I'll be honest with you. I'm not going to blame you because it was 3 years ago. So, and I couldn't find it then. So, what are you going to do? Anyway, what's anyone else been up to this week? Anything exciting? Has anyone had any interesting comments, Dave, on any of their videos?
Yeah, apparently, because I was a gentle ribbing of somebody who remained completely anonymous. Somebody got on my case. He got his panties in a bunch, and I spent about 3 hours, sort of metaphorically biting my tongue, sort of keeping my fingers like this. I will not reply, and then I cracked and told him to piss off.
Which is brilliant. And nobody got my joke in the group chat, by the way. The guy's name was what was it called? The Frightened Tree. Yeah, that was the guy's name, his username on YouTube. Yeah, and I said, well, to be fair, some trees are petrified.
Boom, boom.
Yeah, but no one even bit. No one bit. Yeah, it was tumbleweed. It's like king of the dad jokes. So there you go. Yeah.
Well, my little bit of news is you might see my orange stripes.
You've
have gone.
changed.
My orange stripes have gone for good. They are now covered with complete white paint. So yeah, bit of a change of colour for me, which is part one in the office refurbishment project.
I noticed you didn't
part
get your
two
wallpaper.
No, I got blue paint.
Yeah.
Yeah, blue paint. Yeah, no, the wallpaper went out the window eventually after lots of deliberation and samples hung up on various walls to see what they matched and what they didn't, and we've ended up going with blue paint. Yeah. But
Would Leslie not let you have Thomas the Tank Engine then?
No, I tried, but she wouldn't let me.
So what's in the frames? Are they frames?
They are, well, okay. That's sort of our decorator, who I'm now calling Lawrence Llewellyn Bowen's idea, because we had these frames which were in the dining room, and that's wallpaper in those frames. And that piece of wallpaper was going to go on that back wall and in the wall in the study, which is the door there. See, I'm doing a Lynn here, look, I'm pointing behind me. But his idea was to bring those into the room. We should frame pieces of wallpaper and put them on the wall. So they're there in frames, but we're still undecided whether they're going to go on the wall or not, because I think I look a little bit naff, but I might get used to them. So we'll see where that
So
one
instead
goes.
you're just
But
laying them on the sofa.
Yeah, well, they're there because it's literally only done yesterday, so they've just sort of sat there for the time being. But my objective, of course, is these walls to have my pictures on. That's the idea.
With your
Surely-
amount of photos,
Yeah,
be able
that's
to
the plan. Yeah,
have them everywhere.
that's the plan, definitely.
I
So that's phase two.
like the wallpaper.
Do you? What, in the frames? Well, I can let you have them, mate, if you want. I'll ship them down to you, no problem at all.
No, how much? 60 quid?
Oh, mate, as you're a mate, I'll do mates rates for you. You're going to
Yeah,
have a bugger all.
that's the going rate, isn't it? Yeah, cool. Oh, well, okay. Well, it looks nice. I mean, I think you do need something on those walls. They are a bit bare.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're not
Yeah.
going to stay white. Yeah.
Just stick
Graffiti
all of your
or something. Yeah.
all of your tree images all over those walls would look great.
Yeah, turn into a little forest.
Did everybody see
Indeed.
Jamie's picture actually on Facebook of his trees this week? They were
Yes.
excellent. I
Oh,
thought
that
excellent. Yeah, excellent. That backlit image
That was harsh. That was harsh light in the fin.
but
So-
but lovely, really lovely. You don't always need soft light and
No,
mist,
no,
do you?
absolutely. Yeah, well, it helps because this time of year the trees are now starting to come out in leaf, and that leaf just catches that backlight really nicely and twinkles. So yeah, that was all it took it for, was just that backlight. So yeah, it was all right. Going back again this weekend. Sunset. The plan is this weekend, so trying to get a little bit of warmer sunset light on the trees this weekend. So we'll see how we go.
I'll have to nip on and have a look because I've been a slack tart this week. I haven't been on Facebook.
It's very good, Lynn, have to say. It's very good.
I shall go and have a look after this.
Yes, excellent. All right, so shall we get on to some topics then? I think let's start with, what should we start with? I think probably in view of the guests, I think the best first question to ask is, what's it like to vlog as a couple or with company? So seeing as you're here and you've never vlogged separately, have you?
Yes, we have. Yeah.
Have you?
Oh yeah, but not
you
before
did.
we met.
Oh, right, not before we met.
No.
But we have done it. The other
We do
places at work.
separate little projects every now and again. Yeah.
Okay, so what's it like then? Because I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely amazing.
It doesn't know what to be. We enjoy it, don't we?
We do, yeah. We do have our differences.
I
again, but
get bored if I go out without you sometimes.
do you?
Sometimes.
Oh, that's nice. Didn't know that. Never said that before.
All right, okay.
It's nice. I don't know how to answer that. I've got nothing to come back at.
I feel safer as well. Sometimes if we've gone out late at night or early in the morning, it's nice to have you. It's nice to have you with me when we're in the middle of nowhere.
It's good the fact that we can bounce ideas off each other. We do that, don't we? Quite a lot.
If we haven't gone anywhere for an actual planned image and we've gone for just the trip out, then composition wise and stuff, it's nice to have somebody.
And you share kit as well, don't you? Didn't you share lenses sometimes?
We do. Yeah, we both shoot. Yeah, Nikon. So,
well, there's only a few, isn't there? Just the really expensive lenses. Really, that we share.
I mean, that'd be silly to duplicate them, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Some of the wildlife lenses we've got.
Very expensive.
Yeah, there just wouldn't be a need to have two of them, really.
Who decides what you're going out to shoot? Whether you're going to do a landscape or whether you're going to do a wildlife? Do you have sort of ideas in a hat and you pull one out, or do you just argue about it?
Richard always wants to do landscape, and it's normally me if I've seen from a friend that a certain, like, if we've got like all the barn owls really active, or I've heard so and so birds
and the
are
badgers,
10 minutes away, and then I'll say let's go. So it's normally you for landscape. Me for
only because, as we were saying earlier, that was what I started. I only done landscape for 5 years, really. Everything was HDR'd at the start, like it always is. It looks awful. Makes your eyes bleed looking back now.
Yeah, we're all guilty of that, I think.
We live and learn, don't we?
Yeah.
Is it helpful when there's two of you when you're making video? Does it make life easier? Have someone can be doing a bit of B-roll and that sort of thing?
No, not really. Because sometimes we duplicate and someone's is better than the other ones, and no, not all the time.
It's not easy when we both go to talk, is it? Because you just talk straight over me.
I talk over you.
Straight over.
Okay.
Even in
Here we
mid-conversation, straight over.
I don't know what you're talking about anyway. So,
but yes, I suppose sometimes one of us can be off with the drone, and then whilst the other person's recording something else.
That has its advantage.
A little bit easier.
Yeah.
And we've got 4 hands to carry stuff.
Yeah. There's a lot of kit, isn't there, when you vlog? I didn't realise when we first started. Oh,
I try to go light, but it's just, I think it just becomes impossible. Because you're just trying to get it more and more, not professional, but as good looking as you can, and you end up carrying loads of kit with you. So when you're out, and actually, Lynn, I'm going to ask this of you, because you go out, or did go out, I don't know if you still do, quite a lot with Andy Sheeder, didn't you? When you go out, do you ever sort of have a moment where you think, oh, they've nicked my composition there? I wish, and if you do you ever sort of say, do you mind if I have that one? Is that all right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It used to happen all the time because different eyes see different things.
Mm.
But we never used to fall out about it. And if he said no, then I'd just wait till he disappeared and then I'd go and shoot it.
See, this is where it works perfect for us.
No, we did.
No,
did,
let me speak. Because we have different styles when it comes to landscape photography. We do.
No.
I tend to get bogged down with one image that I want to take, and I will be
No.
obsessed with that image.
We both took almost identical pictures of that deer
Oh yeah.
with the tree, and I found it, and we took it, and then you went, "Oh, I want to put it in Wex Monday," and I thought, well, I can't because you want to do it, and you put it in and won, and it's the same picture.
Pretty much.
So you can't, and I found the tree and everything.
Yeah. But
So stuff like that.
yeah, okay. But what I was going to say was we have different styles. You will go somewhere and shoot 5, 6, 7 compositions,
Yeah, do
which
something.
can be a big advantage because I will get bogged down with one particular thing that I've seen, and then we'll get back to the car and I'll look at yours and I'll think, oh, why didn't I go there? Or so.
I think we're
In
going to
that
talk
respect,
about
we
that
are
actually. I think we're going to talk about that a bit later on. One of those sort of get home and go, why didn't I do that? But so let's just get this straight here. Rich, you took the credit for
That's my phone. No,
It
that was
was
my
his
image.
photo.
No. Let's get this straight. It was my image.
I took you there. I showed you where it was, and then and then I said, "Oh, they're going to come through. They're going to come through now."
I think that was a joint. I think that was a
There
joint
was no
decision.
joint thing.
Whose picture won?
I didn't put mine in because I knew I couldn't. Because you put yours in.
They were similar, weren't they? Very
Similar,
similar.
identical.
Ah, yeah, but the process is different. We have got different processing styles, slightly different.
Oh, a tiny bit of light there.
Wow, makes
I
all the
like
difference,
that.
obviously, because that won. Light paint.
They
on
didn't
the
even
ground.
see mine to have a choice, did they?
You should be faster on the draw next
Yeah.
time.
This is all I'm going to be recorded.
Carry on, don't mind us. You just-
No, that's it.
Brilliant. It's fine. You just carry on. I don't know about you guys, like Jamie and Dave. How do you feel? Because sometimes photography can be a real sort of solitary. A lot of the pleasure is kind of being out in nature on your own and sort of enjoying it sort of in solitude. How do you feel when you go out with other people? Okay, I'll ask you this, and please don't say me, right? Okay, or you can if you want to. Has there ever been a time when you've been out with someone and you thought, I wish they'd just go away? I wish they'd just go away and leave me to do what I want to do. Not necessarily because you don't like them or you don't want to be them, but you're in a particular point and you just think, oh, please go away. Have you ever thought that?
Well, I can think of a time, and I am going to call out you.
You're going to say Thetford Forest, aren't you?
I am going to say Thetford Forest because
Yeah,
you
that's
raised it a second ago about somebody nicking a composition, and I do remember a shot that I took down a line of trees, and you came and put your tripod in my tripod holes directly afterwards.
Yes, you're right. You're right.
Which is fine, absolutely not a problem with that whatsoever. I didn't enter it for Wex Mondays, so there wasn't an issue.
But imitation is the best form of flattery.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
But
take it as a compliment.
I think, in all seriousness, I think that you're right. It's a solitary pastime, and we do like our own company. And I think we've said that many times before. Having said that, I do enjoy being out with other people because then it becomes a social event, and you're there. You know, you're talking photography, you're just having banter, and you're just enjoying your time out with somebody that's got a like to the same pastime that you've got, and it really is enjoyable. But it does distract you from your photography, and certainly if you're vlogging, I find, in fact, I was out, and Paul, if you're watching, don't take this personally at all, but I was out on Sunday morning to Hom Fen, and I was vlogging, and then I bumped into a friend who I've met at home several times, really good photographer, a guy called Paul Benz, if he's watching, really top photographer. And anyway, we got chatting and we were walking around, and we spent a bit of time together, and I sort of lost a little bit of track of the vlog that I was doing, which was fine because I was actually enjoying his company and enjoying talking to him, but it did send me a little bit off my track, so hence why I didn't actually release it because I didn't really pull it together. It wasn't cohesive enough because I hadn't spent the time focusing on it. So I think it's great to be out with people because you've got company. But I think if we're focused on our photography to get a particular image or focused on a vlog, it does make it a little bit more challenging, I think. personally.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with that. I mean, Lynn, you go out a lot, or did go out a lot pre-pandemic with quite a reasonable sized group, didn't you? There's sort of a group of you who always go out. So how did you find that? Were there any times where you kind of not got irritated, but thought, oh, you know, I wish I could just have this little bit to myself?
No, it never got like that with us, because we would go out as a group, and the minute the photography started, we'd all just disappear and do our own thing. Very, very rarely did anybody ever want to shoot the same thing. And then we'd come back together in the evening, if we were out for a couple of days, in the evening, sit and talk about it, or once we'd got the sunrise, and we'd go and talk to other people and go, oh, that'll work for tomorrow. So it never really bothered me. I quite like going out with groups of people for that reason. What I don't like doing, I've discovered since lockdown, is being out in crowds of people and trying to vlog. I didn't mind it before lockdown, but I think I've got that used to being alone. It really off-putting, really uncomfortable.
I find vlogging, when the hardest time for me was when I used to do street photography, and it's like that's why I developed my vlogs to be a lot more, the street ones a bit more sort of, I don't know, edgy and sort of funky and different things, because I just didn't want to talk. I didn't want to talk through because there's so many people. I mean, they don't care. Generally, they don't care. No. And what I used to do in the end, which was quite a good little tactic, is I'd just literally walk up and talk to a wall. So I would be there with my camera and the wall would be here, but all you can see is everything going on behind me. So I'm talking, but I can't see anyone coming. So there's no eye contact. All I'm looking at is a brick wall. So it kind of like, it fools people into thinking that I'm actually just having a chat, but actually I'm just talking to the wall, and then I'm not so worried. But yeah, it's.
We had that the other day, didn't we? Remember when we went to shoot the barn owls, and we had our little Osmo Pocket, and you couldn't have made it more obvious that we were vlogging. You know, there's a big area, and we were like saying the goodbye bit, and this guy, he was a nice guy, he just walked over and just started talking to us, and he must have known what we were doing, and he said, oh, are you here to see the barn owl? And we go, yeah, you know, and you just think, just wait a minute, and I'll speak to you in a minute, you know, and you just think, why do people do?
That's not what you said.
No, I was a bit less I was a bit less diplomatic after he'd walked off, but to his face I was nice. I'm not a horrible person. I just got a bit frustrated on that day.
Yeah, it can be frustrating. I mean, as anyone, I'm trying to think of an incident. Some of you guys must have had an incident where someone's come along. Oh well, I can think of 3 tries ahead, but there must be incidents where people have come along and you're like, please leave me alone. Please go away. Just leave me alone.
Certainly a video, a vlogging camera is a magnet, isn't it? I think it attracts people to you, definitely.
I had it on last Tuesday. I was out somewhere, can't remember where, stood on the edge of the water, camera set up, vlogging camera in hand, chatting away. All of a sudden this old gadgy, lovely bloke with his dog out for a walk. Are you taking photos?
Yeah, with a huge tripod and
No, I'm learning to fly an aeroplane, sir. And every time he said something to me, I'd answer him, then I'd turn back. But he didn't get the message, and I missed the sunset. Because I'm too polite to say, bugger off.
Yeah.
Far too polite.
Yeah.
But hey, it's one of those things, isn't it? No point getting hung up on it.
I guess you don't have that problem at the mountains, Dave, do you, really? With people getting in your way?
You'd be surprised, actually. It's almost the reverse, because the sort of people, there's quite a few people that sort of climb these mountains that watch my stuff.
Yeah.
So last Sunday when I was out and about, there was a couple of people that bowled up and said hello, and to be fair, they do tend to just say, oh, you know, really like your channel, and then they crack on with wherever they're heading. I get overtaken a lot because I'm so slow, so I tend to sort of stand to one side and wave people through. But there was a young Australian backpacker who's sort of, I think she's sort of over here on a gap year type of thing and got stuck because she couldn't go home. But she's been like, you know, going through all the pins on my website, all the locations, and so it was great when people say, oh, that's really helpful. You know, I went here and went there, all because I found it on your website. But as far as going out with people to shoot, I tend to compartmentalise it. I mean, you'll know when we get together, I never make a vlog, never even attempt it. for me, that's social time, because there's plenty of other time where you'd go out and be by yourself and make a vlog. So it tends not to be an issue at all. And I've fished all my life, and fishermen will pitch up just like Lynn at a venue, and then we will go our separate ways and meet up later and tell lies about what we caught. So
I have to say, I think one of the best, for me, one of the best people to spend a day with vlogging or for taking photographs is Darren. Because Darren's just genius. Because basically you meet up with Darren in the morning and, oh, you're right, mate, yeah, looking forward to a really good day. And you look around, he's gone. You're like, where's Darren gone? And then it gets to about sort of lunchtime and then you'll be sort of like sitting there and, all right, mate, you're like, oh, he's back. He just sort of appears again. He's brilliant. There's no, with Darren, there's sort of, and it's great because he just kind of, I think that, we've talked about this before, but I think that's when you know that you're, good friends with someone, because you feel comfortable just leaving and going off and doing your own thing.
Yeah, but he did that to me on Glittervark and the Castle of the Wind. So I looked round and he'd gone, and I sort of get, oh God, has he fallen off?
Yeah.
Oh, what's that? Can I just ask, what's that climb like to do, Dave? Because that's somewhere I've always wanted to go.
Oh, you'll be all right, mate. I'll take you up there, no problem.
Oh, lovely! It does look so ethereal and
Yeah, no problem. We'll sort that out.
Cool.
And anybody else who wants to come up.
Yeah,
Lynn,
we were going to do that at one point. I think
Jamie.
when you and Darren went up, we were going to I was going to come along, and I couldn't make it. But I'm sort of like, it would have been a 3-day trip for me.
Well, I'd been on to Stanner and said we're going to need a really long stair lift. They were on standby.
Or the Snowdon train.
Yeah.
That's about the only way I'm getting at one of those. Although saying that, I did do the walking path up to the first set of waterfalls and thought I could have carried on there, no problem. I could have just kept going, but I didn't because I'm lazy.
It actually, towards the top, that's pretty hardcore. It gets very steep, and the last bit up to the summit is a bit of a scramble. So
well, I'm glad I didn't keep going.
the lower reaches are gentle. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks for making me feel better there, Dave. I really appreciate it. So Dave, I think you dropped in a topic here that we can talk about, and it's would you be I can't do it now. Would you be offended by honest critique? Do you want to talk a bit more about that?
Yes, I'm happy to expand on that subject. Thank you for
Excellent.
asking, Gary.
Excellent.
You're such a pro. Yeah, so it was just that because we sort of were generally on the subject, broadly speaking, when we were chatting on our channel, and it just occurred to me that I've had some critique. And I always find that when it comes from a genuine position, whether or not I accept it, whether I agree with it or not, it's very difficult to be offended by it if somebody has put it diplomatically. And I'm happy to consider it. I had a comment this week on my latest video saying they're not keen on how I present the images, where I've got them on a white background with a really blurred drop shadow. Really expanded drop shadow. And he said you might find it creates more impact if you display them differently. And my first thought was, oh yeah, okay, I'll give that a go. I'll set it up and have a look, see what I think. So, and it was all to do with the fact that he'd said, oh, like the video, but I just wonder if it might be better if, or I think it would. And I thought, that's a really good way to put it. And funnily enough, what we were just talking about up on the Glidders the day that Darren went missing, there was a really fleeting shaft of light on a garn, and I was cooking some dinner, and I grabbed my camera and just grabbed a handheld shot, and I put the shot on social media, and Nick Livesey wrote in and said, Dave, that's a really good image, cracking location obviously, but he said there's some high cloud right at the top of the frame that's really distracting. Have you considered cropping it out? And I hadn't at all. And it was almost, I was so mesmerised by this shaft of light, just perfectly angled onto a peak, that I'd completely ignored this. And he was absolutely right. So I letterboxed it, and instantly I had a really powerful image, which is now is still a portfolio image. And so without Nick's intervention, it would have just be sitting on a page, so on a Facebook page or on Instagram or something, and I'd have forgotten all about it. So I think that for me, I do look with some, what's the word I'm looking for? I look at criticism with as fair an eye as I can, and it doesn't matter who it comes from. I think that if it's put forward diplomatically, I think it can be really valuable, because it doesn't matter how good a photographer you think you are, you just might miss something that the Emperor's New Clothes. Somebody might say, "Oh, look at that!" I'm sure we've all done it. Left a dust spot on.
Yeah, I was literally just saying this today. I've just released a vlog today, which isn't necessarily, well, it's kind of about critique, but it isn't necessarily about being critiqued. But in it, I mentioned that I get ribbed all the time, right, by you guys about my blown highlights, right?
Yeah, but there's no excuse for that.
There's no excuse for. So to expand on this, we were in a group together. We were in a Facebook page called Landscape Photography on YouTube UK, and I posted a picture which I was really proud of from Lanzarote. And someone said to me, "There's no excuse for blown highlights," which I went mental at, right? I went absolutely, I went in on the guy, properly. And do you know what? He was right. The highlights were blown. And at that point in time, I wasn't prepared to take that criticism on board, because I was just not listening. And I actually think there's this thing, and I've been talking about it today, called the Dunning-Kruger effect. And Dunning and Kruger are these two scientists. And what they say is that when you first start something, when you're not very experienced, you believe you're way better at it than you actually are. And as you go along, so here's confidence and here's experience. So you're right up here at the start, and as you go along, that confidence dips, because you learn more, and you realise by learning more that you don't know anything. You don't know anywhere near as much as you thought you knew. And at this point, when this guy was giving me this critique, I thought I knew everything. And I was like, don't be ridiculous. What if the highlights blown? Maybe I wanted the highlights blown. And I looked at it and thought, guys, you've just blown your highlights, mate. Simple as that. That's what I'd done. And now I look back and say, thank you very much, actually, because if he hadn't have told me that, I might have gone off another time and not even thought about that and blown my highlights on another shot. So critique's really important. And James critiqued my latest image from Monsaldale when he said that big stick looks ridiculous. Actually, a guy called Ian Mack did the same thing. So I went, do you know what, I'll have a look at that. I took the stick out and it looks better. So I think taking on critique's really important. Really, really, we don't grow if we don't take on critique.
Do you think on that example you just said about your highlights and this, whatever you call him, Dunning-Kruger curve thing, does it go to the other end where you actually get extremely knowledgeable and confident to say, actually, I've intentionally blown my highlights because I wanted that to be blown, because it's given a nice white sky and therefore it complements and contrasts what I'm trying to do in the image. So
essentially,
it's a
U. It's essentially a U.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think at the beginning it starts higher, because you just think you know everything about everything. And especially, I'm going to hold my hands up, especially a personality like me, I'm terrible. I think I know everything about everything. And someone tries to tell me I'm wrong, I'll be like, in your face, mate. I'm not wrong. I know exactly what I'm talking about. But you have to grow and learn and be like, you got to be big enough and sort of brave enough to say sometimes I was wrong. And in that instance, not many instances, but in that instance,
I think it helps though. If the person giving the critique has a modicum of diplomacy about it, because just coming in with "there's no excuse for blown highlights" could hardly be called constructive.
Yeah, it was a little bit lacking in social skills, the guy. But to be fair, he was actually correct. And when I think it's just. I don't want to bang on about this, but I think it's important to sit down sometimes and listen to people when they talk to you. And ask yourself, no matter who they are, like you say, Dave, no matter what level they are, people still have valid inputs, and say, is this something I need to look at? Am I right? Or are they right? And sometimes you just got to be honest enough to say, I was wrong.
But you did admit that you were really chuffed with that image. So you had some emotional connection to it that you think, I love that image, I really love it. So when somebody attacked it, you went on the defence.
Yeah, but they were right. Ultimately, in the cold
But you
light
still
of
like
day-
the image. Technically, it may have been wrong because you've blown your highlights, but you still love the image.
Yeah, I do. But now I look back on it and think, it's god awful because the highlights are blown really badly in a large area of the shot.
Yeah.
So, it was a beautiful day. I think that's a, subjective versus objective. You're there, you're loving the day, you're having a great time, you take an image and you bring it home, and all you can think of when you process that image or you have that image is, what a great day I had. And that colours your view of that image. It makes you think, that's amazing because I had such a great day. If you leave it for 3 years like I have now, you look back on that image without those subjective opinions because your memories of the day have faded, and you go, looking at it on its merits, I've blown those highlights really badly, actually.
I think
Sorry.
Sorry, no, go on then, go on.
Just going slightly off track with what you were saying there, Gary. How long do you leave it between the shoot and doing your editing?
I think it depends how excited I am about the day. It's like I went to Monsell Dale and I went to Lathkildale the other day, and I was really excited because it snowed and it was brilliant, and I edited it all straight away. And actually, sometimes that's brilliant because you edit like you remember, don't you? You give that, the closer you are to it, I think the more realistic the edit is because you remember the feel of the day, and so you edit to try and bring that feel out. But realistically, what you should do is probably wait a reasonable amount of time and then go back and look at the image objectively and edit it that way.
Yeah, that's what I like doing. I'll edit an image, and if I'm really pleased with it, I might look at it the next day and think, no, I think you can get too involved if you try and do it all in one go.
Yeah,
sometimes.
I mean, I'll be honest. I'm terrible. I look at all of my images, and the last one I've taken is always the best one I've ever taken, pretty much. There's a few that stand out that you go, no, they're really good. But I've took some images, and I'm like, the ones I look at, the ones I've literally just taken this weekend, or this week, they're the best ones I've taken ever, pretty much. But 3 weeks down the line, I'll probably look at them and go, yeah, they're all right.
I think the point you were making, still, I'm going back to your image again, because I think it's worth making this point that you were happy with the image, you then took the critique on and you corrected it to make it, well, the next time you went out, you didn't blow your highlight, so you've not done that again. But sometimes when you get offered critique, it's great because we, as we said, we welcome it because it's great to get somebody else's view on your shot. But fundamentally, if you still like the shot, even though they've offered critique that you've said, yeah, I accept you're probably right, but I still prefer it the way it is, then that's what we do. That shot I took last year at Holm Fen, which is probably for me personally, one of my favourite shots of last year, that the mist shot with the tunnel of light coming through. And I really loved that shot. And I admitted myself when I took it, there was an element to it that was slightly, not too happy with, which was the centrepiece. And I think I put it out for a little bit of critique, and people said, yeah, it probably works as two separate images rather than one image. But I look back at it several times, I think, no, I actually really like it as it is. I just like the way that with the journey of light coming through and the way it operates. And then I just thought, no, I love it. But I also didn't disagree with the critique. I just didn't necessarily take it on board and amend it because I wanted to keep what I saw when I was there and what I saw in the image that I loved. So I think critique is great, but sometimes we can just say, thanks for that, but I'm keeping it where it is. But I really appreciate your comments.
Yeah. Yeah, but I did blow my highlights.
Don't do it again.
At the end of
You've
the
got a
day.
catchphrase out of it, though.
Yeah, I was so honestly. The truth of the matter is, when I look back at it now, and it's a long time ago, I was so pig-headed. I was just going to argue with that guy anyway. Maybe I meant to blow my highlights. I didn't mean to blow my highlights. I blew my highlights because I mucked up the shot. That's why I blew my highlights, because I just took the wrong. That
Here
shot was
lies
just,
Gary. He always blew his highlights.
yeah.
That's a good.
But I was just, I tell you what would be really interesting. How do you two guys deal with each other critiquing your work?
Fine. No, but at the end of the day, you always process your images to what you like, don't you? That's always going to be the case, isn't it? So if Jem then comes along and says, "Oh, I think I would have done it differently," I'll look at it and think, "No, I was right. I'll do that." But you're the same. As Brian Clough said, we have a 20-minute discussion and then we decide I was right. For those who can remember Brian Clough.
We're definitely different because we can stand in the same position and take a completely different shot. So,
definitely.
So even if you said that Gemma make it dark as hell like I do,
no, but
I wouldn't.
I know you won't mind me saying this. You, and this is only my opinion, of course, but I think you've improved immeasurably in the last year with your landscape photography. No, you have. Take it as a compliment, because it is a compliment.
But then you're saying that I was rubbish before.
Well, rubbish is a bit strong, but you were 90% wildlife, weren't you? Even 95% wildlife, and you can now. The two genres do cross over, but it's all a learning curve. So we do have disagreements, but who wouldn't?
So I can see a hole being dug here. How deep are you going?
I'm going.
You don't take.
I reckon when we get off air, Jim is going to beat the crap out of it. He's going to be like, "You made me a fool! You made me a fool!"
I must admit, I can't think of anything worse than sharing a pastime with Mrs. G, other than eating lunch.
Yeah, but
we love it.
Yeah, see, but the thing, right? I was going to mention this earlier. Before I met Jem, I used to go. I was quite selfish in the holidays I had with my ex-partner, in that I tended to choose always the places that I wanted to go, which tended to be photography trips. And there's nothing worse, believe you me, on going on a photography trip with someone who's not particularly interested in photography. I don't have that issue with Jem at all. That's an absolute joy, because because if we go to a location, I've not now got to worry that I've been here 3 hours looking at a tree. Yeah, whereas Jem will be happy that with me looking at a tree for 3 hours. So it's nice going away together and having the same interest. We do still split, don't we, and sort of wander off and do our own thing, but the evenings are nicer when we get together.
We don't split all the time. Because sometimes we're actually going for a building or something, so then you can't split.
No.
You do spend a lot of time lying around, don't you, when you do your photography? I've noticed that on your vlogs. You spend a lot of time just laying around, just
that's for that low angle,
beds.
Isn't it? So everything looks better at eye level.
Richard, Richard does nights, so you're trying to sleep at the same time.
I have been known to sleep on my roll mat a few times.
I'm pretty sure recently it wasn't Rich who was asleep though. I'm sure there was a recent vlog and someone else was asleep on it.
It was a hares, I think, wasn't it?
That's right.
Yeah, was I asleep? Yeah, I was. I had a busy week, didn't I?
You had a busy week.
And we went out straight on the Saturday.
A big f4 400mm lens normally does a trick. Just throw it in her direction. It's good. It's all good.
So critique then, we're all just happy now to take critique, are we? Everyone's good.
I feel people don't give it enough.
Yeah,
I feel I'd love some.
You do get the lovey brigade, don't you? Who will just say everything is great.
Yeah.
And then you never learn, do you? If everyone says, "Oh, that's amazing. Oh, that's superb." It just puffs your ego, but you don't really learn, do you?
I'd be very happy to offer more critiques, but I certainly wouldn't do it unless invited to.
No, and you say there's a way to do it, isn't there as well?
Well, it's the unwritten rule, really, isn't it? You don't offer it unless somebody actually asks for it. CC welcome, Okay, well, let's dive in there then.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, if anybody wants to send in an image or two, we could do something with it.
Now, there's an idea.
Very constructively, of course. you could be confident we wouldn't, just be unnecessarily
Rip
harsh.
it to shreds.
Yeah.
Well, we're
Well,
not.
James
we're not-
might. But
Yeah, James might. Rest of us are not like that. We're all very nice about these sort of things. I think you're absolutely right, though. What you're saying about the Lovey Brigade, I think it's very difficult to take people. Like, some people are genuinely trying to give you positive. I really love what you do, and I read some comments on my vlogs, and I just sometimes just go, wow, that's absolutely amazing. But I honestly think, and I don't want to alienate anyone out there, but I'm probably going to. I honestly think that there are people who would probably, if I took a picture of a dog turd in a bin lid, they would go, "Oh, lovely shot that." The
Nice
light on
lighting.
that, yeah, the light on that's perfect. And it's just like that's not what I want to hear. That's not what people. I think people often think that you want to hear that. People think that you want positive reinforcement, that everything you do is great, but that you don't. You want to hear the truth. I want to hear the truth. If someone thinks that my vlog's particularly crap this week, I'd rather someone say, "Didn't really enjoy that because X, Y, Z," than, "Oh, what another amazing place." Because I'll go, "Oh, brilliant. Okay, great. I'll do that again." When actually they might have thought, actually, no, that's not what I wanted at all.
there's
What,
human
Dave?
nature.
Hang on, what, Dave? What's going on down there, Dave?
You know
Dave's got
that's not true.
It is true. It is true.
You
honestly.
get triggered easier than a bloody pistol with the lightest hair trigger. I know that after you come back down, you see it and you go, "Yeah, okay then."
hang on.
There we are.
We've got a
Special
guest.
guest appearance.
Oh,
Hey!
Hello, mate.
hey!
Hello.
How are you?
All right, mate.
Did you remember me this week?
No, he didn't.
I did.
Sorry, who are you?
I can only see Gary. Oh, here we go. Right, yeah, I'm just checking in. That's all. Just making sure that I'm still around. You haven't forgotten me.
No, we definitely remembered you this week. You look like, where were you, Kelly Hall Tarn?
Yeah.
Yeah. I made that sound like I knew what I was talking about, but you told us you were there before.
Yeah, it's nice to see you, Mally. It's nice to see you.
Huggers, a lot. Right, I won't hog it. Oh, I'm off there tomorrow. The old man and Dow Crag, and I thought I'd just check in and say hello to everybody.
It's good to see you, mate.
Great
Really
to see you,
good to
buddy.
see you.
Yeah,
Have a
enjoy
nice
your
weekend.
I'm
Stay
like a
safe.
saint. Can you see that? Look, I'm like a saint. Look, my halo.
Nice light.
Right.
Make sure you don't blow your highlights.
These people
Yeah.
that go to honeypots, eh?
They're all
God.
blown. Don't you worry about that. Right. I'll see you later, guys.
See you later, mate.
Cheers,
Good to
buddy.
speak to you.
Bye.
Bye.
See you next
Bye.
week. Bye-bye.
How do I turn it off?
Oh,
Are you still there?
Yeah, we're still here. Yeah, we could just see your picture now. There you go.
Thanks, God.
So moving on, let's talk about another subject, and I think this one's a really good one actually. And this was, see, I've got to say, Lynn, like Lynn has been like an absolute genius at sending in questions. It's been brilliant, like little topics. It's like even when she's not on now, she's like, "Have you thought about this for a topic? Have you thought about this for a topic?" I'm like, "Oh my God, these are great." So this topic is from Lynn, and there's a little bit of an extension here from Dave as well. And it is basically take a photo or create an image. And then Dave's added on to the end, and how far have you pushed an image in post-processing? And I think we'll start with Rich and Jem here because they've got one and I've seen it.
No, that's my cup of tea.
yeah. That was.
So what have you done to that for the uninitiated?
Basically, I dragged the water all the way to the beach huts, zoomed in on the beach huts, and then took away the background. Brought down the sky.
Because there's no way we would have taken that image in the camera because the sea was really rough. We would have been like up to our chins in the sea.
The tide wouldn't get that far.
But you would have to have been standing proper in the sea to get that image. And even then, it wouldn't have gone that far. So there's no way you'd get that image without sort of pushing it.
No.
And is that the same sky? Because it looks different.
I might have added some light here and there.
Right.
I'm pretty sure it might be the same sky. I don't know, because obviously we were there several
Was that
hours, weren't we?
Photoshop sky replacement.
It wasn't. I'm sure it wasn't. Was it? I'm sure it wasn't.
People who replace skies, I just think they're just.
We were there over an hour, so we took just photos of the water, just photos of the beach huts. You did a what did you do with your beach huts?
Something very similar, but I don't like sharing things
that's what I meant.
that you've shared because that takes away the spotlight.
You're upset. Yeah, you did a pano and then put it together and then took away the big.
Only because I got a new leveling head and I wanted to try it out tonight.
Okay.
Okay.
So-
Come out.
Yeah, sure. I mean that's really, I mean that's further than I've been. I think to push an image, because that's a real composite, isn't it? It's all the same. It's all like pretty much got from the same image.
Yeah.
But you've really pushed that.
We don't do that very often, to be fair.
I'm
We
not
don't-
criticising
it's
it.
not- No, it's not something
criticising
we
it at all.
do very often at all, but it just lent itself to
We've
that.
got one more location that we're going to do it at, aren't we?
What's that?
Pinmill.
Pinmill, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Pinmill is a
That we're going to
classic
do a
example.
similar.
Are we allowed to mention other bloggers?
Yes.
Yeah,
That's like
absolutely.
Gary Goff done
Oh, not him. No, you're not allowed to mention him.
from from Pinmill. He done something exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
He just
okay. Yeah.
totally, yeah.
So did you go out on purpose to take an image or create an image like that, or did
To
you
create
just?
To create
You
that
did?
image.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
I'd already seen
Mhm.
the huts and had an idea of exactly.
We were
what
determined,
wanted.
whatever it looked like when we got there, that was what it was going to look like.
Okay.
Yeah.
We didn't actually know how far the tide went.
No,
did
we didn't,
So
no.
we were like, "Oh, it's going to be high tide in
It
2
was like
minutes."
running along the beach with the tripod up in the air, you know, like it can be at the sea.
See, that's interesting, isn't it? Because if you went out there to actually create, you had a vision in your mind of what you wanted to create, and you went out there and you captured the various elements and pulled it together and created it. So,
Like Gary
you know,
said, in a way, that's not cheap because we got all of those things you
Yeah.
see on the screen were from that location on that time on that day.
yeah,
It's just
yeah.
that we moved stuff and
I mean, you could argue, regardless, it's not cheating, is it? No matter what you do, because you haven't gone out there and said that's the shot I took.
no.
You've gone out there and said that's the shot I've made, and so there is no, essentially, there is no cheating involved there because you're not cheating anyone because you haven't told them any different. So
And we
you
didn't,
know,
we didn't vlog it, did we? Because we just wanted to do it.
Yeah.
yeah.
For
No,
fun.
it's a fine example of you using photography skills and post-processing skills to make an image that you had a vision of. Pulling it together, simple as that. So there's nothing wrong with that, is there? As you say, if you'd gone out there and said, "Oh, this image didn't really work, so what I did was I pulled that over there and that over there and I just bodged it and made it work," then that's different. But
We did,
you
I
had
mean,
a
as
vision.
cheating in a way that we saw someone else's picture who done something very similar. But I have a bit of a habit of doing that. Like when we went to Giant's Causeway, Nev Cartledge
Yeah.
had done a vlog from the Giant's Causeway, and I had it in my mind that I just wanted to copy his image. And Jem will tell you, I spent an hour walking around on the Giant's Causeway looking for the stone that he took. But
But
I got something
I
similar.
got
It
some
wasn't as
lovely
good, but-
images.
And you got your
here, there,
usual
and
5 or 6
everywhere.
other good images. I can get obsessed with a location.
Really, we hadn't noticed.
Yeah,
That's not coming across at all.
No, I do get very excited.
So
sometimes.
Lynn, when you posed the question, what were you thinking?
Partly that, but I kind of nicked it off somebody else who posted up the very same question. Is it pretentious to say, I've made these images? So instead of taking a photo, you're making an image. Can you see the difference? Not creating probably wrong, but instead of snap, I've taken a photo, snap, I've now made this image.
But if you call it art, you
yes.
can get away with anything, can't you?
Yeah, but
It hasn't got
likewise
to be a
with the
photo
editing.
then, is it?
I think there's a real thing with a little bit. I think we're just talking here about language,
Yeah,
and I think there's a real sort of. I think it's unconscious snobbery that people don't want to say photo or picture.
yeah,
It's like image is. It seems to be the image is the word to use if you're a photographer. You say, look at my image, here's my image, taking this image. Whereas if you say, I've taken a picture or I've taken a photo, people worry that you might be assumed that you're just taking a snap, you're an amateur because you've just taken a photo. So I kind of get... Go on.
But I would think if you said you've taken a photo, then you haven't done much to it. That's what I would think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you've taken a photo, it's basically 95% what you see. If you've taken or made an image, then you can do basically what you like to it, I think. I don't have an issue with that.
No, I kind of get what I get what you're saying. And when you say image, it
is
can be a lot
snobbery.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be a lot more. I get that, yeah.
But also on the editing side as well.
But there's another argument to make an image is that do you make an image in camera by creating a composition in camera? So do you line up your composition intentionally to make a composition work and therefore you've made an image in camera?
It was Ansel Adams who said you don't take a photo, you make it. And the image is like an extension to that.
I know Adam Gibbs says he makes images, and a lot of other sort of long-standing photographers will say they make an image, and I think it is terminology. Mark Curtin, who is another YouTube vlogger, he says he uses the word frame. I don't know whether you've watched any of his vlogs, but whenever he says I've taken a frame, this is my frame that I've taken. So it's terminology, I think, with certain individuals in terms of what they classify as an image.
But I always think if someone says I've taken this image, I don't do post-process and I don't believe in that. A lot of me think that's because they don't know how to do it. That's my own personal opinion. When you hear these people say, oh, I get it 100% in the camera, I don't do any editing at all, I find they tend to be the people who don't know how to edit, maybe. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. But
I often look and think if you've... very few people would... We talked about this before, haven't we? Very few people... Like a RAW is essentially a digital negative.
Yeah.
It's not a negative.
It looks flat. It looks awful.
Yeah, it's there to be processed. It's a starting point. So if you say, I do it straight out of camera and that's it, then you're missing the trick, aren't you? Because there's, even with Ansel Adams, you want to go back to Ansel Adams, he did dodging and burning and all sorts of different things in the dark room. That's what he did to enhance and bring up his images. So he didn't just go, click, here's the film and I've developed it and there you go. Fan Ho, exactly the same. Fan Ho, fantastic street photographer. He added shadows in using dodging and burning in the dark room. These people, they're not... I think you kind of get these like purists to say, well, it's not a shot unless... And if you're doing it in a JPEG, so someone takes a shot
exactly.
and it's a JPEG and they go, here's my image, that's not the image. Because the camera has applied...
Exactly. Yeah.
Camera's applied changes to that in-camera shot to make it more presentable. So even if someone goes straight out of camera, well, it's not really because it's been.
If it is straight out of the camera, it is going to be JPEG, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
And then it's altered. Yeah. It's been altered, so it's
Yeah. So I think in this day and age, and I think anyone who's anyone really who in the past, even film photographers who were anything, they altered images in the darkroom. So it is. I don't think anyone really, unless you've just taken a snapshot, just goes always straight out of camera. Maybe I'm wrong.
I've met a few birders that just go straight out of camera.
Yeah, but again, I just think that's because they don't know how to edit.
Yeah, possibly.
I don't know, maybe.
Look at if you want to talk about bird photos. Usually, I mean, you're probably better than me, but usually, unless you've got like a £400 million f4 lens, normally you're shooting at reasonably high ISOs, aren't you? Because you can't get that light in to have the ISO. You can't shoot a bird photo at ISO 100 unless it's an incredibly bright day. So you're introducing noise. So generally, you then do something in post to remove that noise,
Well,
whether it's Topaz
We
Labs
had
or
a
whether
classic
it's...
example with the badges, didn't we? I mean, I shot an image at 12,800 ISO and it was still 3 stops underexposed.
Yeah, exactly.
But then we brought it back and used
that was with the-
denoise.
That was with your 2.8.
Yeah, and used denoise, Topaz denoise, and it's absolutely amazing. I am gobsmacked with the image I ended up with.
Oh, I look at Topaz denoise and I can't believe how good it is for wildlife. For wildlife, it's unbelievable. I
Definitely.
think it's like almost something that everyone should have as a wildlife photographer. It's like that important, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But
It's
yeah,
a shame I didn't do the before and after of that shot.
Yeah.
Because that would have. Anyway.
but sorry guys. I mean, what do you got? I mean, Dave, what do you think, mate?
Well, I mean, as everybody who follows me will know, I'm very much of the. I'm making a photograph. I'm creating a piece of artwork, and I rarely put any sort of label with it when I share it that says, "Oh, by the way, this is how I concocted this." But there's next to nothing that I put out that hasn't been concocted in some way, and I'm very happy to proceed on that basis because I'm not trying to please anybody other than myself.
Exactly.
But also I'm quite explicit about it. I'm going to share a couple of screens if I may.
Oh yeah, please do.
This one here, if you can see that one with the boat on the lake. That one, I vlogged that from start to finish, so I showed how I captured the frames and how I stitched it together. So it's actually 4 images: the foreground with the boat and the leading edge of the lake. I was quite pleased with it. That was taken about 20 minutes before sunset. I knew the sun was going to go down behind that low cloud on the horizon. The bright cloud at the top was shot not long after the foreground, and then the sky is 3 images together. So again, I look at that and I think, well, let's say for argument's sake, I mean, you mentioned earlier, Rich and Jem, about those beach huts. They were all shot same day, same time. Had you gone back and shot other elements at a different time of day, I'd still say, well, what a lovely image. You know, I wouldn't say to Picasso, yeah, you should have put all that oil paint on the canvas on the same day, otherwise it doesn't count. No. It's patently ridiculous. You know, I'm, as far as I'm concerned, I'm producing artwork to amuse myself. That's it. If other people enjoy it, that's fantastic. If other people get something out of it or they learn something from it, that's even better. But the bottom line is, this is a nice memory for me because it was a beautiful evening. I thoroughly enjoyed myself. And I had a very enjoyable couple of hours putting it together in post, because I do spend a lot of time in post working slowly and methodically. Gary's seen me do that.
Yeah. Do you feel, Dave, though, do you feel that there's something missing from that shot? I can't put my finger on it. What's missing from that shot?
We just need a jetty.
A jetty, that's it, a jetty. It's missing a jetty.
Nice.
So now this image, Gary was
with you.
we'd gone to Llandwin Island, and Gary buggered off in the other direction to take some honeypot shots. So I had a couple of hours where I wasn't making a video. I didn't need to hold his hand, so I don't often get that sort of time to myself. So I suppose it must have been about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours shooting this rock. Yeah. And I didn't move. I set myself up and I just shot and shot and shot. And it was a pretty grim afternoon, likewise. But yeah, literally after about 90 minutes, all of a sudden, that sunlight broke through on the horizon. Yeah. That happened on that day at that time. Yeah. However, it was somewhere over to the right of where it is now.
It wasn't far over though, Dave. It wasn't.
No, it wasn't. But
hugely far over.
I slid it across.
You've done the old Bruce Almighty.
Exactly. And then I put a tiniest Gaussian blur along the horizon line to hide the join. Obviously, the foreground. Now, this is interesting. The foreground is not a long exposure. It's dozens of exposures converted to smart objects with a mean blend mode.
Oh, that's clever. Yeah.
And then a colossal amount of dodging and burning on that rock, picking out highlights that, zooming in at 400% and picking out tiniest little highlights here and there. And then some colour grading, significant amount of colour grading. So the start, if you went and saw that rock, and I've actually taken people and showed them the rock, and they said, well, yes, I can see why it attracts your attention. But they have to admit that it looks nothing like what they're seeing with their very eyes. I couldn't care less. I'm very happy with this image. It's one of my favourites.
You can't beat a bit of light painting, I don't think. Lovely.
Do you know, I remember that day really well because I was stood taking a picture of, was it 12? What was it, Dave?
Spot on.
Yeah,
that was it.
The lighthouse, which isn't a lighthouse, it's actually a tower. I was stood there. See, I got that bit right. I was stood there taking a photo of that. Dave had gone. Right? He just disappeared off. And the next thing I saw this like small yellow dot climbing up these rocks. And I was like, who is that idiot? What are they doing up there? It's really dangerous. And then, like, hang on a minute, Dave was wearing yellow. And it was you. It was you all the way down in the distance climbing up on this rock, and you just sat there for ages. And I remember because you very kindly let me stay over that night, and the next morning you were editing that, and I was there while you were doing it.
Yeah.
And it's a fantastic piece of work. Actually, I really like it.
That's the point. It's a piece of work, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's something that's been
Exactly.
created as a piece of work. Yeah. Big difference. Does that answer your question, Lynn?
Yeah, I mean that just it's right up my street again. That one. Do you tell people when you're making composites, or when you've gone further than just a few tweaks of contrast, brightness, sharpening? That's I have no objection to that sort of image.
But any image that I make, I put out there, and as far as I'm concerned, they can all have a disclaimer that says, this image could have been heavily manipulated, anything could have happened to it, take it or leave it, I don't care. That's it. That's my default position. So I wouldn't go on and say, I did this and did that and did the other. But you can take it as read. There's very few that I would share that hasn't been worked on to a large degree.
That's quite comforting to know, to be fair. The fact that you've worked on a lot of your images. Because the social media thing, you look at the images that are on there, it's like, oh, how can I ever create something that good? And then you start to realise, actually, that's not right. Whereas that image you just showed could be a real image, except the light isn't quite in the right place on the rock. But it could be a real image, the same as the boat one. That could be a normal evening sunset.
Yeah.
But there are some where you think, hang on a minute. And that's what, for us, I think, start again. That's what I think new photographers can get really disheartened about. I edit mine. I'm doing a minimal project. My God, there's some editing goes on there. But I normally show up the raw out of the camera. Admittedly, it's converted to JPEG then, but untouched, and then I'll show the edited version. Because I don't want to be accused of misleading new photographers. And I'm not saying that you would be, but there's
you can end up
area.
crying wolf, though, because I put out an image last year of a moon rising above the glitters, and everybody thought it was a composite, and it bloody wasn't.
Don't you think it's sad, though, that you feel you have to do that? Because there are people out there who will say, well, you're putting off newcomers. And I do get it. I mean, it can be disheartening. I look at something like, for me, the classic platform is 500 pics. 500 pics is not a photography site, it's an art site. It's very, very, I mean, there's a guy, I can't remember his name, but I looked at some of his waterfall images, and I just remember, this is 3 or 4 years ago, looking at it thinking, how the hell has he taken that? That is absolutely amazing. But of course, it's mostly done in post-processing, but I don't know. I guess there's a point to say that new photographers are going to be daunted by that type of shot, but equally, it's a bit sad, really, that you have to worry about disclaiming that your shot's been manipulated, just in case you're going to upset anyone, isn't it?
I think it is. But I think that's the world that we live in at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, I was talking about this today. I'm not going to go back to my vlog, but I was talking about this today. And I think it's one thing to tell lies about basic, irrefutable facts, if you like. But when you talk about art, when you talk about photography, there are no irrefutable facts in a photograph, are there? It's just art. So it is what it is.
And it should be what you want it to be, not what other people want it to be, which is Dave's attitude.
Yeah.
I like it. It's what I wanted.
Yeah.
If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't.
Just thinking back, I'm sure I probably had the opposite opinion at some point during this podcast, which is what, not this one, but during the series of podcasts, which is why I'm treading carefully and trying not to say anything that's going to incriminate me. And I go, wait a minute, in podcast 27, you said... Yeah, so I'm not 100% sure. But look, art's art at the end of the day. As long as you're not trying to say this is a real photo that you could go out and take in camera, then I can't see there being anything wrong with it. And whose decision is it to judge you on that anyway, other than mine?
Didn't we have a conversation about a tiger on a tree once? About that image that was taken on the trail cam? Was that a similar conversation around whether it was fake or not?
No, but that wasn't fake, was it? I think our argument there is how can you be called Wildlife Photographer of the Year if an automatic trail cam took the shot? It should be the manufacturer of the trail camera who should be called Wildlife Photographer of the Year, because they took you weren't there at that. What's it called? Henri Cartier-Bresson says the decisive moment. You weren't there at the decisive moment. Something took it for you. So that's a different kettle of fish, I think, possibly.
But is it also under the same banner of potential deception? Not intentional, but it could be perceived as deception if... Well, am I going down a path that probably shouldn't go down? Yeah.
Well, I suppose the thing is, did the person who strapped the trail cam to the tree or whatever it was strapped to, did they make out that they were there with some camouflage netting and a flask of Bovril, for hours on end waiting?
I was just going to say, surely that image would have smacked of being taken with a wide-angle lens. Who's going to take a picture of a tiger with a wide-angle lens in the wild? You've got to be that far away from it for a start, so you'd sort of know if you knew it was with a wide-angle lens, you'd know it was taken remotely.
I'm
who's
pretty
going to
sure
lay in front of a tiger and take a picture?
Going back to this story, I'm pretty sure that the guy was freely admitted, and the judges knew that he'd set up several trail cams in the area where this rare tiger was, and they knew that the shot was remote and it was triggered by movement, and were happy with it. But I think our argument back then, oh hello, doorbell, our argument back then was, can he be called Wildlife Photographer of the Year when he wasn't there to press the button to take the shot? Because it's, how many hundreds of images did that trail cam capture to get that one image of that tiger doing that? But
you could sort of argue that he put the work in to know where to put the trail camera.
Yeah, so he could be.
So
called...
it wasn't just a lucky. He may have been going back for weeks to.
Yeah. So call him Wildlife Spotter of the Year.
Yeah.
Have you two guys, Gemma, have you ever used a trail cam or considered investing in one?
I do all the time.
You do?
Yeah,
okay.
I've got one.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a trail cam. Yeah, we set it up all the time. But it's normally, it's lower quality. It's like 12 megapixels and it's shooting most of the time in the middle of the night and stuff, isn't it? So
but that's just to get knowledge, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's
so we then go to the location and sit where we've seen that particular animal or something go past. So that's just to learn the habits of what we're trying to find.
Yeah.
The pictures are pretty shabby, aren't they?
You wouldn't use them, would you? No.
No. But that for me that's sort of dedication there, right there,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah. That's proper use of a trail camera. You're using it for what it's meant to.
You should do a video about that.
We did.
We have got. I think we have got some in the garden with the trail camera. Back of the garden.
During the first lockdown, we set up a hide.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah,
Dublin.
yeah,
And
your birds. Yeah.
did you actually? You included some webcam footage.
Do you remember
the
that,
J and that?
Yeah, I did trail cam.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
Oh, I remember that one. Yeah, that
Ages ago, yeah. But no, we don't always. I've put it up in other places, and we don't always share it, do we?
No.
excellent.
Handy tool.
Extremely.
I can't get mine to work. I don't know what the make is, but literally it either takes 4 million pictures of nothing or no pictures at all. I've got one where it takes a picture of me leaving, and then a picture of me coming back, but nothing in between. And I know there's stuff in between, or it just takes it fills the card up with just picture after picture after picture after picture of nothing.
You have to go into menu, and then you choose whether it takes a picture or a video or both, and the time between each one.
Right.
There you go, Gary.
He's got a glaze.
Don't you bloody know anything. You're lying.
So,
Call yourself
mine
a
takes-
wildlife photographer.
I didn't do a video on it though, saying here's how you use trail cam, did I? So
Mine takes 2 photos and then a 10-second video, and then it stops for 30 seconds and then takes another 10 seconds video, but only obviously if the motion detection goes on. But yeah, you can set it all up so it does all that.
Does it go
you
off like if a spider starts doing a web in front of the sensor and that sort of thing?
Can do, can't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, anything. Yeah.
Oh, there is 3 buttons on mine. You might be in test, and you might not have flicked it over to on properly.
I can't rule that out. I'm not going to lie. Yeah.
What you need is someone to do a video about it, Gary, that you can watch.
It's a tiny little slot. So sometimes if I haven't pushed it far enough over to on, you're in test, and then it'll only take the one when you're leaving. Yeah.
Yes, that makes sense.
So you need to push it over as far as you can go.
In the break between videos, I'm going to find it, and then you can do a quick run through with me because I can't get it to work. If I can find it, it could be anywhere now. Actually, yes.
You ever considered putting it up in the kitchen and watching who's the one that took that last can of Coke out of the bloody fridge and didn't tell you saying you replaced it?
I know it'll be
That'd
me.
be Gary.
Yeah.
No, I was talking to Kevin Rich.
Well, considered putting it on when we've left the house to watch the dog. Haven't
Yeah.
We? But we haven't ever bothered.
No, they won't bother in my
It
house
is-
because they just know that I've taken everything. Put it by the fridge, it'll be me.
It's currently next week. It's going up at where our fox cubs were.
Yes. Mm.
Last year when we had some fox cubs, and we don't know if they're back or not, so we're going to put the trail cam up in the exact location that we found them last year for the next week or 2 and see
Oh, I bet
if
that'd
they're
be nice.
there.
Is most of your wildlife stuff quite close to home? Are you sort of surrounded by it?
Most of the time, aren't we? Yeah.
We're lucky. We live near Shingle Street. I don't know if you know that's.
Lynn does. I've seen Lynn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you get a lot of the migrating birds. That's their first port of call to this country. So we are lucky in that respect. We do get a lot of winter visitors, don't we?
Yeah,
I was
and then,
wondering if you had any fears of your gear getting nicked while it's out there set up recording.
yeah, we do. But if you don't use it, then there's no point having it. And the trail cams, I mean, this one's about £35. So we put some tie wraps on it and a little padlock, and you just have to go with it, really.
We just get the impression that the sort of places we leave it, there'll be other people like us go, and we just wouldn't think that they'd be the sort of people who take it. I don't know. Maybe we're too.
I know. I'm often thinking, oh my God, is it still there? But if we don't put it out, then we don't use it.
You didn't you weren't walking through the forest one day and thought, oh, there's a trail cam, I'll have that.
Oh, we
Oh look, they grow on trees.
we got a man. He just came straight in through the woods.
He did.
Dropped his trousers, did a wee, and then
Without
pulled him
stuff
back,
like
and then
that.
off he went. And we're like, oh
It wasn't
my
in
God.
Wyman Brook, was it, by any chance?
I never realised your trail cam was there. Oh my god.
Yeah, I was
I
like,
should-
to get you in. I was like, look at this.
You were quite chuffed with that, weren't you?
I could tell you a story about Monsell Dale actually, but I don't think that it's.
Does it involve a trail cam or not?
No, it involves me needing a loo yet again. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to share that. Actually, I will before we go, because we're going to go in a minute. So I'll just share this one really quickly. I went to Monsell Dale, and I kind of knew, right. So on the way, right. So sorry. Thanks for watching. Anyway, and how do I cut that bit out? I don't think I can.
You don't.
We will see you next week. Goodbye.
See ya.
Bye.
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 You got to leave it in, mate.
This is. Do you know
Great
what?
ending.
I don't know why. This is all the time. I feel like I have to share